Here we are. All right, so we're on the second part of this lesson here. One of my code links reminded me that I need to add poetry. As a genre. So before I get into JavaScript, I'm just gonna come over here, grab this form, check, just copy that, paste it. I do want to add poetry because I'm here for a good poetry book. Value is gonna be poetry, ID, poetraw. I'm just gonna put poetry there, and poetry. All right, cool, ready to go. And so come back here, and this is what we look like. And you can see checks. My checks work. So you see I can select multiple items. With my radios, I can select one or the other. I cannot select multiple items. Okay. You can see here for year released, I can say, 2025. I can say 1620. I don't think it's going to let me say 15. Well, it'll show up, but when I submit it, I should get an error message there. I don't want to test it out right now. Uh, anyway, so what we're gonna do now is we're gonna come over here into our app.js. Yeah, don't be like me in the past and forget to link or add your JavaScript file to your HTML document. Okay, so we're gonna come over here inside of app.js. So what do we want to do? First thing we want to do is we want to collect the data, right? We want to store the data. Well, before that, we also want to validate the data. So we want to collect the data, we want to validate the data, we want to store the data, and then I think last thing I think we'll do is we'll display the data. All right, so those are the things we want to do. I like to put this stuff in comments just to help me track my ideas, track my thoughts, making sure that I'm handling each task appropriately. These are my basic tasks. This is not written in stone, right? So I can go and modify it as I need to. I can add more tasks that I want to do here. This is just me getting the thoughts out of my head before I start working on other stuff. Okay. So, with that being said, let's start off with I'm going to build a class. This is going to help me to collect the data. So, I'm going to say we're going to build a class to collect the data. All right. Say class book. That's what I'm going to call this class. So the class is a special kind of object. What it does is it builds out what we like to call a prototype. And this prototype essentially takes it builds a format. And what we can do is we can hand it off to other objects that will inherit the properties and any methods that exist within it. Okay, so that's what we're going to do here. So I'm put everything in the class, and we'll start off with our constructor method. This constructor method has will list the properties that we'll need, and we can store inside the constructor. We can pass in certain arguments, much like any other method. So we'll say constructor will have a title, author, and I'm going to be consistent with my name. So I'm going to say book title, book author, year released, category, and then genre. I believe that was the 5 different things we had in the form. We have title, author, year released. Oh, format, book format. I forgot that one. So let me add that here. Book format, year release, category, genre. All right. And so then what we're going to do inside the constructor is we're going to build out how we want this to look. In 1 second, I'm going to go, I want to look at my notes and see how I want this to look. Okay, yeah, that's what I want to do. All right, so we want to get our book info here. So I'm going to say this dot book info. I'm going to make this an object. Okay. And what I'll do is I'll say book title is going to be book title. Matter of fact, yeah, I can just do this. I'll say book title, spell correctly. That'll be book title. So in other words, whatever we're passing in here will be stored as our value for book title. Book author will be book author. Book format will be book format. Year released will be year released. Matter of fact, I think what I'll do is I'll just say parse int. I'll do it right here. Year release. So I'll go ahead and convert it to a number in there. And then category will be category. Genre will be genre. And I think what I'll also do is I'm gonna try something here. I'm gonna say ID is gonna get I'm gonna say I'm not gonna worry about it. I don't want to overcomplicate this. All right, so here we go. We're getting our information here. This is going to be in the constructor. Okay. So what will happen is for each book that we collect, we're going to create a new instance of the book class, store this information inside of it, and then from that information we'll build a class, if you will. We'll not build a class, but we'll build cards. All right, so that's going to be our constructor. All right, that's going to be it. And now we'll do we'll write a method that will just simply give us a description of the book. So we'll say get description. That's what we're going to name this. And here we're going to pass in book title, not boot title, book title, book author, year released, and category. I think we'll see. I'm thinking ahead. Oh yes. Do I want to put that? Yeah, I suppose so. I guess I can. This is where it might get a little fuzzy right here.
We don't want to have format in there.
No, because this is just a description of the book. So my idea is like create a template is going to say, The Grapes of Wrath is a fiction book story, whatever, by John Steinbeck, released in whatever year it was released.
We could probably leave genre out and just have that separate on the card.
I think so.
Shorter, but that way we still display the genre.
Yeah, I think so. Matter of fact, I'll leave out category as well. And so what we'll do here is we'll just say we'll return this string template that says book title is a work by book author first released in year released. And that'd be it for get description. Not a whole lot going on in there. And you can see here with methods, we can do all kinds of things. We can return the year released. We can return the genre if we want to. Like, for example, if I want, I could say, I can write a method, say return genre. So genre is going to be an array, and that's where it's going to be a little fun. But what I want to do, so we could do is say we could take an array, which would be the genre. I'm going to say array dot for each. So for each item in the array, matter of fact, I don't even need that because this is all in the same thing. So we can say, we'll say genre, we'll say this dot book info there we go, dot genre dot for each. So take each, I'll stick with item, take each one of them, and we can I don't know for right now because I'm not going to be worried about this. Console.log the item. So again, really what I want you to see with this is inside of our inside of our class, this is a prototype object. And what we can do with it is we can build out this object how we want it to look, what information we want to have. And so when we pass in a book, we can, again, the Grapes of Wrath will have access to the data with this book info, but then we'll also have access to this method return genre. So I can say, hey, Grapes of Wrath dot return genre, and it should console out the genres for the book. Or I can say Grapes of Wrath dot get description, and it will return this message. Hey, Grapes of Wrath is a work by John Steinbeck, first released in whatever year it was released. So that's what we got here, and you can build as many methods as you want to inside your constructor. You can build as much as you need to inside of there. What I want to do is, again, just get the information from the book. Again, we can do so much more with this. Okay. And I'm going to make this return genres. Put an S in there. And I think that is going to be it with the class. So that's going to help us to collect the data. So now let's work on this form and how we get information from this form. What we're going to need to do. Let's start off. I want to be able to click on this button here. Matter of fact, let me open up my console. Okay, so because I'm gonna need that, baby. So right now it's not going to do anything. But let's add a couple of attributes for our title, author, and year release. Let's make those required. So I'm going to come back over here to my index.html. I'm going to start here with the input for the book title. I'm going to add the attribute required on that. If you've already done that, good for you. If not, that's okay, because I'm going and doing it right now. Going to add required on my book author and year released. I'm going to add that as well. I want those entries to be required. Okay. All right, now we got that. Now I'm gonna come back over here outside of my class. Now the rest of the stuff is going to be done outside of the class. So I'm outside of the class. Okay. And now I want to get my button. I'll say get my submit button. Okay. So my submit button, I gave it an ID. Where are you? There you are. I thought I did. I did not. Let's give it an ID. Give it an ID of submit BTN. So I'm adding the ID submit BTN to my submit button. Now I can come back over here inside JavaScript and I'll say const submit button. And I didn't need to add an ID, but I just like doing that. Gets document dot get element by ID submit BTN. So there we got access to our submit button. The next thing we want to do, we want to make this button work. So we're going to add an event listener to it. I'm going to say submit button dot add event listener. The event is going to be a click. And right now, all we want to do, just to test it out, just to make sure that it works, is just console click. That's all we want to do for right now. Come back over here and hit submit, and there it works. Click. Cool. And you see that we're getting here an alert saying, please fill out this field to let us know, hey, you got to fill this information out right here. Okay, cool. That works. Great. Fantastic. So we got that working. Now what we want to do is we want to get the information. Okay. And so what I like to do with this here, I would like to write a function here that will get the information. And this is not going inside the class again. All this is going to be done outside the class. So I'm going to write a function. So constant, I'm just going to name it get info. All right. So get info doesn't take in any arguments. And so what we'll do is now we need to get the information from the form, okay? And this is being handled here inside of this function here. So let's say const, I'll just shorten this up right here. Title is going to get document dot get element by ID book title. And I want the value from it. Right here, what this does is this will return the entire element, meaning this is going to give me the input with all the attributes and everything. I don't want that. What I want from this is the value. So I need to specify and say dot value, and this is going to return whatever value we place in to the input, not the entire element itself. Okay. And I'm going to do the same thing for author and your release. So I'm going to say const author is going to get document.get element by ID book author dot value. And I'll say const year is going to get document.get element by ID year released dot value. Okay, so those are pretty simple. Those are just a text or number input field. So whatever value, whatever we type inside of this box here, whatever we type in there, that's the value that we're collecting. Okay, so that one is pretty easy. Okay. Now let's do the radios. Okay. So for the radio, again, with the radio button, it is an input that lets you select an item, but it is mutually exclusive. So it means for a certain set, if you will, of radios, we can only select one item. We can't select multiple items from it. You know, it's like I'm ordering a pizza. I can only get a large pizza, or I can get a medium. I cannot get a large and medium and it be the same pizza. So what we're going to do here, let's look at what we named the radios. So that first one, we named book format. Okay. So I want to say const, now say book format here. It's going to get document dot query selector and here I'm going to say I want an input element put in square brackets right here where the name is equal to book format. That's the name that we gave it. So I'm looking for any input with the name book format, but this item needs to be checked and give me the value of it. So if the I want the book. Yeah, well, whatever we've checked, whichever radio button that we've checked. Oh, let me put double quotes here after this book format. Whatever input radio that we've selected that has a name book format, that's the one that I want. I'm storing that in book format. I need to do the same thing with category. Const category is going to get document dot query selector. Same thing, input square brackets name equals category colon checked dot value. All right. And now we got to get to genres. And the genres are check boxes. They're done a little differently. Okay. And what we're going to do with this is we're going to say, hey, let's start off by making an empty array. So I'll say let genres. Let's make that an empty array. There we go. That's an empty array. Yes.
Is there going to be any confliction between the variables category and genres, as well as compared to the object that we made earlier?
How so?
Because we have category and genre in the constructor.
Mm-hmm.
Or is that name convention going to clash any?
No, because this is we're going to take this information here and store it here. So yeah, it's not going to be any collision.
More or less initializing the variables up top, in a way.
Not really. So, well, these are our arguments, and what we're going to do is we're going to take this get info. We're going to get this info, store it in an object.
Okay.
And then we'll take that object and create a new instance based off that object. Yeah. All right. So here I have genres, and now I need to get all of the particular genres. And I'll say, here I'll say const book genres is going to get document. Here I'm going to do a query selector all because I want every single element that has been that's been checked. So here query selector all, and the query is input, and the name is equal to genres. I think that's what we named it. Let's look here. Yeah, we named it genres with an S, or at least I did. So there's all of those. Okay. And then now we have genres, and we'll say, hey, book genres. What we want to do is we're going to take each one of them. So I'll say take for each, and I'll just put item. And what I want to do is I want to say, hey, if the item has been checked, then what we're going to do is we're going to copy it. Well, we're going to use this genres empty array that we have and copy this data. We're going to make a new copy, if you will, with the data stored in. So we're going to use a spread operator. I'm not going to push. I don't like to use .push. We'll just make a new copy of genres for each item that has been checked. And if not, Yeah, if it hasn't been checked, then we won't do anything. All right, so I'll say item.checked. Hey, has this item been checked? So I'm going to use a ternary for this rather than using the if statement. Has this item been checked? Then genres is going to get spread out, and we're going to spread out genres. So whatever was in there before, and then we're going to add item, but we don't want the whole entire element. What we want is the value. Else, don't do anything at all. So this is going to look and see, hey, for every element from book genres that's been checked, if it has been checked, then we're going to pass it into this genres array here. Otherwise, we won't do anything at all. All right. And since we're using a ternary and a for each loop, what I can do is I can shorten this up. I can get rid of my curly braces since it's just returning this right here. And I can store all this on one line because that's essentially what this is. This is one line. If I, minimize, if I reduce the size of my font, you'll see that it's all in one line. And this is going to work just the same. And now the last thing that we're going to do is we need to return this information. And the way we're going to return it is inside of an object. So I'm going to return this object, which contains the title, the author. I need to spell title correctly. I can start there. Title, the author, the year, the book format, the category, and genres. All that stuff is going to get stored in there. All right. So cool. This should work. We're going to find out uno momento. All right. Let's come over here and back in our submit button. Yes, get into console click. That's cool and all, but that's not what we wanted to do really. What we wanted to do is we wanted to take this information and we're going to create a new instance of it. Okay. So how are we going to do that? First thing I need to do is I need to make sure that I'm not resetting my browser. So I'm going to pass in the event and say event.prevent default. So this way our browser will stay in the same place when we click and it doesn't immediately refresh once we complete this task. We may be able to remove this later, but right now let's keep it as it is right here just to test it. All right. Now what I want to do is I'm going to make a little object here, empty object. So I'm going to say let object get an empty object. Okay. And then what we want to do is we want to say, hey, I want to take this object and I'm going to store in it whatever I return from get info. So we're going to return the running or the calling of get info because get info is returning what? Get info is returning an object here. So it's going to return the object. And by using the spread operator, meaning we're going to remove the curly braces and just pass in the key value pairs. And then we're going to store it inside of our copy object. Okay. And then what we'll do now is we could say, hey, const book is going to get a new instance of book. And now we can pass in our values. So object dot was it title? That'll be the first thing. So that's going to get passed in. Right here's book title. Next thing is the author. So object dot author. Yes.
Do we want that to be a constant, or do we want that to be let?
We want this to be a constant because we're not updating this. We're creating a new instance of the book, so we'll be able to reference it each time. It's only happening on the click.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Object dot where am I now? What's next? Format. So object dot book format. That is what we call it in get info. Yep. And then object dot year. And then after year, object dot category. And then object dot genre, or we call it genres. And I'm going to move all these to separate lines just so we can so all of that is being stored inside of book. And to test this out, for starters, what we're going to do is we're going to console.log book. This will be our first little checkpoint just to see if this works, because we've done a lot here, but we want to make sure that this works. Okay. So I'm going to come back over here inside my browser. It should console book. Let me come over here and our story in a book. I'll say Blues People. Authors Leroy Jones. I don't know the year it was released. What year was it released? 1963. I'll say paperback, nonfiction. I'll say history. I just put classic. I add those two. And then when I click submit, oh, look at there. I get a book. Let's open it up. Book info. What's up with format? Category on. Ooh, so I got to look at these. So I need to look at our radio buttons. But I did get this. See, we got the genre, got the year released, got the author. So let's look at book format and category. So input name, book format, input name, category. Do I want the checked ones or do I want the selected ones. Let's see. Maybe it's selected. I don't know. When you don't know or when you can't remember, 'cause that's really what it is. I can't remember. Let's see. I need a radio button. Let's see. Collect data from radio input. How do I do it? Yeah, it looks like I did it correctly. I wanted the checked ones. So let's see. I'm gonna check in my radio, make sure I got that written correctly. ID name. Oh, guess what I need? I need a value for it. That's what I need. So value is gonna be fiction. So yeah, so on your radio buttons, yeah, we need to add a value attribute. I don't know how I forgot that. And the value attribute needs to be like whatever the ID is, whatever we have for the label. Yeah, I don't know how I forgot that. Oh well. Go and clean it up. This is paperback. Or I can just say paper dash back like that. I can do that. Hard dash back. Okay. Yeah, so we got to go and check, make sure for our inputs for our radio buttons that we add a value attribute. Yeah, didn't add that for those. Okay, so cool. So got that. Now let's try it again. What I said, paperback, nonfiction, classic. I say history. Hit submit. And there we go. Now it's been fixed. Okay, cool. All right, there we go. So now we have all of that. We're good to go. So I think this will be a good place to stop right here on this video, and we'll pick it back up. And now that we're able to get the info from the book, now we want to see about how do we go about displaying the data. All right, so that'll be on the next video. I guess that'll be part 3. So I'll see you there on that side.